Hello, this is the Harboring Light. I'm Mary. Give a conservative take about the world around me. Feedback is immensely important. Feel free to reach out to me. Best way to do that is two ways, through email and YouTube. So not too hard to find on these audio platforms, podcast platforms out here. But all you got to do is type in the Harboring Light. That's me. All right, it's Friday, everybody. So it's a new routine here. It's called Current. And what I'm doing here is keeping up with what's currently going on in the world today. This time, I'm going to give my thoughts about the aspects of the new biopic that's out, the Michael Jackson movie. Here we go. Okay, Mr. Michael Jackson, Mr. MJ, as you call it. My goodness, that man has really contributed a lot to our society as far as music and culture. And so I saw the trailer for it. I'm going to do one of those things where I'm going to wait, to stream it and look at it at home. And then, I'll give you some more input later on, when it's available, as a recap, later on here in another podcast. And so, this is what I'm perceiving, and all the information that I have found and headlines about it. This is what I'm thinking. So, some say, the critics for it, of course there's going to be critics for everything, right? That's just the way of the world. So, there's a lot of critics that are coming out and they're saying, well, this is more business oriented, it's more bland, this whole all-inclusive thing where they want to focus in on the salacious drama about it, right? They want to focus on the child abuse allegations. They want to focus in on stuff like that. When in actuality, that is a hindrance to the legacy that Michael Jackson has contributed. And then also let that go, because none of this stuff is proven to be true. I mean, it hasn't came out, and then I remember when the stuff, and that's a grain of salt with that, because it's one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't things that went on when the Epstein files came out. So it's one of those things where they were saying, and I heard other people talk about, as soon as it was being released, our Mr. President here, Mr. Donald J. Trump. He was saying, hey, let it go. Let's move past it. Oh, and then it was just, to push the agenda. We want to know. And it was making it seem like, they were being flaky in the aspects of, releasing stuff. And then, making it see, President Trump, he makes it seem like he's on our side. He's not really, in all the da-da-da. And then when all this stuff finally came out, it's one of those things where, we see the evidence, but who knows if it's really true or not? And why are these things blank? Da, 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 da. So, it's just one of those things. What can you do? Like, if you want to, it was just one of those things to be proven. You want to see what you want to see. And then, unfortunately, some people don't want to admit to that when they're disproven. They don't want to admit that they are still, in their feelings about, well, it's gotta be what I think, and instead of just being disproven and saying, oh, okay, so let's move on. Oh wow, okay, all these things. So why am I talking about that? This is relevant to a lot of aspects of why I think critics are saying the things that they are saying about this movie, because they want it to be perceived in a certain light. They want it to be, unfortunately, just like other biopics that came out, they're Priscilla Presley biopic that came out, the one about Elvis. Now that was very strange and bizarre, and especially the way that the particular actor who portrayed Elvis, the way he looked, it was very off putting to me. And then it was this whole thing where it was more in the aspects of the drama of the situation instead of just telling the story the way that it is. Yes, drama does unfold into the story, into the lives of these legends, of course, yeah. But I don't know. It's something humbling about the aspects of just giving respect and then just having, a movie that just gives respect to their art form and to their craft and all of that. So I think that's what they're trying to do here with this movie, with this new movie here. Now, I'm gonna get into some facts about it, towards the end of the show. But now, that's one thing. And so another thing is, how this agenda is being pushed out around. Now, I'm just saying, merely stating the obvious. I don't know if they did that or not, but I remember it was this whole thing about when after Michael Jackson did the Pepsi tour or the Pepsi commercial. My memory is kind of watery about that. But when he got his hair caught on fire, right? Unfortunately, with this whole thing that happened to him, and thank goodness he survived that. But anyhow, they were saying this whole thing was coming out about how this what is this? I think it's the skin disease of vitiligo. I think that's what it's called or something. That somehow that and it was dormant in him in that vitiligo, and to explain when he went. Around 1986, I think that was the bad tour or something like that, to explain why his pigment is so white complected or olive complected. It's not he's not African American looking. When in actuality, if I'm not mistaken, from what I understand, and I'm not trying to be sensational. I'm just trying to. This is the facts that I'm recalling, and if I'm wrong, feel free to reach out to me and just let me know. So anyway, he was saying he toured. When he went to Japan, something like that, right? He was very. It just blew him away. And so he wanted, and then there was another thing where they were saying this whole thing where he wanted to be, the light of the world or something. There's a lot of allegories of that, being Christ-like, right? So he decided to go endure a lot of plastic surgery so he can have a white complexion and, white appear as a white man, a white person, right? And all this construction to his face. Unfortunately, that was the downfall, towards later on in his life. It was this whole thing where he became addicted to the surgery. But anyhow, and so it doesn't seem like they're doing that. Like they're not, it seems like they're just focusing in on the Michael Jackson before all that. But it seems like that they did. When they have him just dark complected, even though he wasn't looking like that. So that's kind of odd because it's like there's a you look at the ambiguity with that. Like, are you trying to say, well, we shouldn't whitewash somebody who whitewashed himself? I don't know. It's really weird because it's one of those things too where it's like, these agendas being pushed out and being just unfounded to do. Yeah, a really good case in point of that is this new series that's coming out with Harry Potter about making Snape. I'm saying his name right, yeah. Because, it's been a while since I enjoy Harry Potter, but it's been a while, since I, read the books and all these things. So, y'all, you know who I'm talking about in jest. The professor, who was with, of everything, and who taught Harry and Hermione, and who taught all of them, right? And so initially, when Harry Potter, they decided to turn his character into an African American man, and see, that's something that you should not do, because it's very prevalent that it's going to make it seem like he's being racist, because as soon as Harry Potter came into the school and saw him, Snape looking at him like in an ominous way, like he was, very leery of him. He was like, well, what's wrong with this guy? So this is going to make it seem, it's very off-putting that they changed his character to be a black man, because it's going to make it seem like he doesn't like him, his race, racially, that's how he is. And that's wrong. So flip the script on that. Like, why? Just tell it things what they are. I don't understand this whole thing. We're just making him African American throughout the whole arc of his life with Michael Jackson. Just tell the story for the way it is. That it's okay. That's one thing too. And this other thing, some time ago. Now, if I'm not, I'm gonna get more specifics with that. I'm gonna read it. There was a particular actress, really not actor, but actress, who was chosen to represent Diana Ross into this biopic about Michael Jackson. And so there was some headlines that came out. It was a lot of headlines, really, that came out, and they were saying this whole thing where, they cut her scenes from the movie, and she's not really in it, or something like that, right? And this whole thing where a lot, and I'll go into more details about that towards the end of here, coming up here. And it was this whole thing where she's speaking out, and she's saying, all these things, and everything. So here's my take on it. See, okay. Two figures that were really prominent, female figures that were, three, I guess, to a lesser extent, Brooke Shields. Anyhow, older women who were very prominent in Michael Jackson's life, it was Diana Ross and Elizabeth Taylor. Now, the juxtaposition of them is very evident, right? Now, with Diana Ross, some allege and some say, and I spoke I spoke a little bit on this on Sunday, when and y'all feel free to be members there. On Sundays I talk very candidly about things, and on last Sunday I gave some endpoints about the aspects of a little bit to lead into now to Friday. A little bit of my thoughts about Michael Jackson and everything, and a little bit about this where it comes to Diana Ross here. So I'm gonna go into even more details now. Here. Okay, so here's what I think. I think that when you see how things flow, and you see how her personality is, they tried to say, well, oh no, she's not really a narcissistic, dwelling. She's not a narcissistic banshee. No, she's not that. No, she's this, right? And the things that she does and the way that she acts, and it's unfortunate that's what her personality is. And so it was this thing that came out that was very pronounced, that understood that Michael Jackson was infatuated with Diana Ross, right? So it seems like maybe she exploited that to a point to where it helped to, boost her career. I don't know. But on the other hand, Elizabeth Taylor was more of a mentor to Michael Jackson, right? And you could see the disposition and different state and everything that was between Elizabeth Taylor and Michael Jackson is quite different. So maybe they were going, I don't know, maybe they were going hard in on something like that. She didn't look very favorable. And her little ranting daughter, Ella Ross, Diana Ross's daughter, the actress. I'm sure y'all know who I'm talking about. Yeah, she started out with girlfriends, and then it led to other stuff, and then she was in that. It was unfortunate, that pitfall of a show. It was pretty. Oh, it was fine. Sort of. With the disposition of figuring yourself out as a black man or a black person in America with Blackish, but it just turned into a crap show. And other assorted movies that were just really woke and crazy. And she probably said, "Oh no, we did." She probably had her hand in it too. Who knows? But anyway, that's something too about taking away to the trying to another thing to take in and think about and consider when it comes to this movie. All these things being at play with it. It's just, I say with this, a really, I like it, I don't know, I get eerie about the aspects of when critics are saying stuff about movies, because first of all, most critics, unfortunately, they are paid to say salacious things about certain movies, and they're not actually giving analysis about any something. They're paid to be the fall guy, I guess you could say. Right? And it's just one of those things. I think that this movie is really relevant to the current landscape of today, of how influential music and pop culture can be and shape our mind or perceptions about things. I think that's what should be taken away from it. And then another really good example is this. So I personally have never seen Michael Jackson on tour. I was a little baby girl. When I wasn't even born yet when he did the Bad tour, but I was like 12 or 13 when he was going to be in town, and it didn't work out to where I could actually see him, and that was something. But fortunately, my mom was blessed enough to be able to see Michael Jackson, go to that Bad tour, and she still has the albums and everything. And then the way that she describes it is and the look in her eyes and the glint in her eyes is unreal, because it's really relevant and revenant into a lot of explanations and examples that people have said throughout the years about the feeling that they get about going to seeing, hearing his songs, going to his concerts. It's just this overwhelming peace, right? And to the point to where it's sort of supernatural, you could say that. And that's really something, and that's very evident into the power that is with music, of how mentally it can be very spiritual, and how it can connect to somebody's soul. So getting back to what my mom was saying, she said when she saw him in action, it was just, it took her breath away because the way how the showmanship that he has, the tenacity that he had, it was unreal. And then how people were so and engaged in everything, and it was just this overwhelming attitude of the just like being on a roller coaster, this thrill of excitement, and then it's just all nonstop, right? And she was lucky enough to be in, I think she was in the second or third row. That's crazy. That's unbelievable to see such a legend like that close up. And she was fortunate enough to experience something like that. And so I don't know. That's something that's something to be also taken away when we think about having a lot of respect with doing a biopic when it comes to Michael Jackson. Being very respectful and being very understanding to how relevant he still is, and how immensely impactful, and how he touched so many people's lives. And then also with the aspects of, he really did do his best to contribute and give back to society. So that's something that shouldn't be undenied too, because unfortunately there's a lot of pop stars, and some they get their butts up here, and they say that they're do-gooder, but it's fake bullshit. I mean, bullcrap here. Sorry, but I'm just being honest, just fake bullcrap, right? And I don't know. It's just it makes you feel jaded, and lose any respect for pop, because they don't really mean what they say, right? So I had one more point. Let me think about it. Let me see. I think that's pretty good. So, I don't want to just keep going on and on like that. So, I'm going to get into some facts here, okay? And like I said, everything will be listed for you here as sources in this episode, okay? All right, so, okay. All right, so that the actress, her name is Kat Graham, and so and this is by People magazine, right? And so she opened up about cut from Michael movie after filming Diana Ross. So this is what she says. So Kat Graham is addressing why she does not appear in the new Michael Jackson biopic more than 2 years after reports surfaced that she would portray Diana Ross in the movie. Says Variety confirmed in 2024 that Graham, which she is 36, will portray legendary Supremes lead singer Ross, who is now 82, and Michael Pick, which stars the late pop star's nephew. And that's very respectful, and I was going to mention that too, how they took the due diligence to have someone in the family to actually portray Michael. That's really kind, and also having a lot of respect. Jafar Jackson in the lead role. Ahead of the movie's opening, now it already opened, Graham shared a statement posted on X and her Instagram stories that the scenes she filmed for the project were not included in the final version of the film. So, she said, she is quoted by saying, "I wanted to share that certain legal considerations affected a few scenes, including the ones I filmed with an incredible cast," she wrote. "Unfortunately, those moments are no longer a part of the final cut, though the team works hard to preserve as much of the story as possible." All right, so that's one thing. Two, and also let me get into more aspects here about the Michael film, okay? All right, so facts about it. All right, so, excuse me. So you take, I'm taking this with a grain of salt now. This is AI generated response, but it's a really good sort of capture of the outline of the movie, of events or current events about the movie. So Michael, which was directed by Anton Fuqua, and I'm not mistaken, I heard that this particular director, he directed a lot of, sorry my stomach's kind of gurgling there. He directed a lot of films featuring Denzel Washington. All right, so the biggest opening ever for a music biopic, which opened at $97 million domestically, and 217. I'm sorry. Let me say that again. I flumbled that up here. 217.4 million globally. So the film, which spans from 66 to 1988. Okay, well, that's interesting. Focuses heavily on the rise to fame in his business and negotiation and his relationship with his father, Joseph Jackson, which was played by Coleman Domingo, while largely omitting his later life and personal controversies. See, this is a thing too, which is it's giving respect. So why judge and talk about all the drama? Because that's what he went through so much anyway, and unfortunately even more so towards the end of his life. Why recant? People don't want to see this. People aren't wanting these things anymore. People aren't wanting dramas for the sake of drama. They don't want this kind of stuff, especially the fans of Michael. They don't want to see that. And then also another thing that come out before I say the rest of this stuff here. The Finding Neverland, that documentary. I've heard and I've seen some stuff, and I don't know if it's true or not. It could be just a rumor alleging this because going on with the Michael movie being released, that they're taking off the availability for it to stream it, which is rightfully so. Because I remember when it came out, I saw it. And it's just one of those things. It was nothing but a hit piece to just want another thing to make him look bad. And that if that is true, that's a lot of respect to do that, because I don't know, just let the man's legacy talk and speak for everything. All right, so omissions of allegations. So scenes depicting, unfortunately, like I said. Some scenes depicting child sexual abuse. Other allegations were removed following a legal agreement with an accuser, and a decision made at the instance of the Jackson estate, which also funded reshoots. So, excluded family members. Janet Jackson is completely absent from the film, and siblings Rebe and Randy Jackson are notably missing from the scenes, despite being present in the household during the timeline depicted. Historical inaccuracies. Now, they say that the film incorrectly shows the Jackson 5 performing after Gladys Knight and the Pips in 1968. They actually followed Bobby Taylor and the Vancouvers. And, I mean, I don't know, maybe that was an artistic bent to do that. Who knows? And then, like I said, this is AI generated, so you take this with a grain of salt, what I'm saying. And then this whole thing where I can understand that about omitting the other siblings and the depiction of the Michael of this Michael movie, because it's supposed to focus highly on him. He's supposed to be the really the reigning star in the movie, so it makes sense for them not to be as present because it's all about him, really. All right, so business dramatization. So the movie dramatizes Michael's firing of his father via fax through lawyer John Branca, which is played by Miles Taylor, and highlights Water. Forgive me for the pronunciation of that. Yeffinkoff's, which is played by Mike Myers, and pressure on MTV to play Billie Jean. And that's one thing too, where but so it's one of those things here that, yes, he did tear down the doors with having African American artists on MTV, as far as showing music videos. Yes, and that was great, and that's wonderful. But at the same time, we got to see it for what it is, because I remember some time ago there was some YouTubers, other sort of YouTubers, making comments about this, how, in the beginning of the MTV television generation, there was a lot of as they say, doing these to be I think sensationalized things, to be saying a lot of white artists. But see, let's just be honest with that. I don't think it even had to do with race or anything. It was just what they were just showing people, showing artists that were really familiar for the Democratic who was watching it. And I think that's just all what it is. And then this whole thing where, there's like downtrodden African American artists. I don't know. So that's one thing too, to add on to the context of what I just read. So production content. So produced by Graham King, John Branca, and John McClane, with Prince Jackson as executive producer. And the film aims to satisfy the estate by emphasizing nostalgia while downplaying scandalizing elements, which is good. All right, so I hope this helped y'all to stay current, and I appreciate all of y'all. You want to keep this conversation going? Feel free to email me your thoughts about the aspects of the movie. If you've seen it, let me know, what you thought about it. Also, your thoughts about Michael Jackson in general. You have thoughts you want to reach out to me and tell me, feel free to email me. And also feel free to fill up comments on YouTube. It's greatly appreciated. All right, so this reaches the end of staying current on the Hovering Light. Tune in, crank it all the way up, turn up the radio. Come on, I want some music, got to give me some more. You know what I'm talking about? Crank it all the way up, y'all. All right, this reaches the end. Take care. Mommy, it was raining. I know.